Okay, so today we're going to talk about the Andaz Dubai The Palm. Now, in line with the other Andaz reviews I did, today I want to talk about the Andaz Dubai The Palm. This one is located in the UAE in Dubai, pretty much at the end of the stem of the palm in Dubai, so you can see it here on the map. The location is actually super nice. You can reach pretty much everything quickly by an Uber or a taxi or whatever you prefer. So a couple things to note about the hotel. It's not the newest building anymore, so the Palm has been built, I'm not sure, but probably a decade ago or longer. So basically some of the buildings on the Palm are not the newest anymore, and you can really see that with the Andaz as well. It's not exactly old, but I think the building has seen some better days in the past. I think they tried to put this hotel in there and give it some kind of like retro vibe, which I think it worked out in some parts of the building, but you'll also see that there are some parts where you can really tell that it was a bad idea to put a hotel in a older building, if you can even say that, in Dubai. Now, one thing to note straight away is that this is an Andaz, which means that there usually is no lounge. Usually they try to compensate it. If you've seen my other reviews, they try to compensate it with a wine hour, for example, where for 1 or 2 hours in the evening you can have free flow wine, as well as usually you get the mini bar for free. Now, that's unfortunately not the case for the Andaz in Dubai. I'm not sure if that is due to Corona. So at the time that we went there were still some restrictions, which meant that the minibar was empty except for some water bottles. I'm not sure what this is about. I don't think that should be a hygiene aspect. As well as there was no wine hour, unfortunately. Unfortunately, unlike other hotels that we had, you also don't get a drink voucher that you can use at the bar or the restaurant, which seemed a bit strange. So there was really no kind of compensation or anything for the lounge feature that they are lacking. So even if you come with a high status, like globalist status, you won't really get anything from that. So I think in line with the building already being a bit older, let's talk about the room. Actually, we got quite a nice room in terms of space. So we had the globalist status and got upgraded to a little suite. As you can see here, there's plenty of space, but there's also a couple of things that you immediately notice that are not going well. One thing are the light switches, which we really struggled with. And we had 2 different rooms. We actually moved rooms because there was a lot of noise coming from the highway side of our first room. So we moved to an identical one on another floor that was on the other side of the building. And in both cases, the light switches were super hard to operate. I don't know, there was no logic. A lot of lamps did not work, and you only could completely shut down the light in the night with the master switch at the entrance, which meant that you always would have to stand up and get to the master switch to completely turn off the light, which seems quite strange, but I mean, old building. The same can be said with the AC, which for some reason was extremely sensitive, so it either completely blew out cold air like crazy, or it didn't work at all if you turned it too warm. You can just really tell that this is not state of the art, I guess, due to the building being older. One thing to note is that with this kind of suite, as you can see, there's really not a lot of daylight coming to the living room area. There's barely any windows. Like the way that the suite is cut, it's quite strange. You have this beautiful bedroom with these huge windows. They're a bit dirty, but overall the view is amazing. But you don't really need that much in the bedroom, especially if the bed is facing the other way. And at the same time, if you're sitting in the living room at the couch area or this dining table, there's hardly any daylight, which seems like a strange choice, and it didn't feel as cozy, to be honest. Now, I noticed that when I saw some of the more, let's say, standard rooms, the studio rooms, that I think they are getting a lot more light naturally because there's basically just one room with a big window. So actually you might want to consider if you really want a suite upgrade, because the suites don't really add much to the whole experience. But I mean, I guess that's the style they're going for. You can see it in the living room couch area, and this like stained glass windows that are really trying to do something a bit creative to give this older building a bit of character, personality. One thing that was a bit curious is that we got a lot of water bottles, like a lot. I don't know why, but every day they brought around 15 bottles of water to the apartment. Not sure if that's standard procedure or they're trying to, compensate for not giving us a minibar or anything. I don't know. But that was just something to note. And then if we're talking about the view, as you can see, it's actually quite nice. I mean, you have these two buildings on either side, kind of, getting into your view a little bit, but I think it's okay. You get this view onto the water and to the pool area, which is quite nice. Again, our first room was to the other side, so the bedroom was literally to the highway, which it was quite noisy, and the view is not super nice. So just something to note, if you can try to get a room away from the highway. The windows are not the most insulated in terms of noise, so you will hear that a lot. Now in terms of the breakfast, it was actually quite nice. You have this beautiful big restaurant and you have this outside terrace, which we went in November. Obviously you can use a lot because that's one of the best times to be in Dubai. It was 30 or 25 degrees, it was super nice. The breakfast is really nice. You have a lot of options. You also have, savory options like actual meals, soups. You can also order eggs, although they had these strangely cut out little pieces of paper that you had to hand someone, which was a bit odd, but it worked out. Overall, I had to say that the service was not super fast, and I think the people they are working, they have very narrowly designed functions, and they don't try or they don't want to deviate from it. So if someone is only responsible for coffee orders, for example, they won't take your plates, even though they might as well. Just something I think that's not exactly optimized, but not a big deal, of course. But yeah, as mentioned, the terrace is really nice outside. Just note that it's allowed to smoke out there, so if you're very sensitive to that, you might be unlucky and sit next to someone who's smoking. So do take note of that. I think one other thing, we were a bit of a bigger group of 5 people, so then it's a bit harder to actually find a table in the restaurant for breakfast, and also in the evening if you want to sit outside, there's not a lot of seats that are for so many people. They have these nice little round cabanas to sit, but usually those are also the most popular, so it's very hard to get a spot there. The hotel also has a pool area and also a private beach, which is quite nice. So if you go down the terrace of the restaurant, you actually get to this kind of green area where also the pool is, and this one is quite nice. The pool is not super big, at least compared to other hotels in Dubai, but the water is warm and nice and refreshing. There are a lot of families and kids, especially living in the apartments that also belong to this area, so it can get a bit louder. Also, there's a private beach area right after the pool, so you have plenty of beach chairs to just relax and take in the nice weather. You do get quite nice views. You can see the Burj Al Arab, for example, from the beach, which I think is quite nice. You can see some of the other villas and nice houses on other palm leaves. So that one's quite nice. But again, I think just something to note is that smoking is allowed in some areas of the pool and also at the beach. So again, if you're sensitive to that, keep that in mind. I think overall the pool area, it's definitely hard to get a beach chair there because as I mentioned, it's not the biggest size and you have a lot of people who want to go there. naturally people come to Dubai to, you know, relax at pools and beaches. So it's quite hard to get a nice place there. So you probably have to come very early in the morning if you want to do that. I think one other thing I want to mention is about the COVID specifics. So when we went there in November 21, at this time you were supposed to wear the masks, let's say a medical mask, on the premises of the hotel, as well as, you know, anywhere in the city, of course. Now, naturally, if you go swimming or go to the beach, then you don't have to wear it. And I think the staff tried to enforce this rule, so they actually were, you know, nicely asking some of the guests that forgot to put their masks on after they were dining in or something, to put it on again. But I also noticed that a lot of people were not taking the mask wearing as seriously, to be honest. That's something that I noticed all over Dubai, and it seems to be mostly Western tourists that seem to struggle with that rule in general. So just something to be aware of. Alright, so should you stay in the Andaz Dubai The Palm? I think if you're really focused on the Hyatt chain, there's really little options for you in general in Dubai, unfortunately, at least so far. You have the Grand Hyatt at roughly the same price point, but the location of it is pretty bad. It's located in the middle of Dera, close to the airport. I don't think that's a very attractive location. You have the Park Hyatt, which is a fantastic hotel, but obviously much more expensive. And there's probably some regular Hyatts, but those are also likely on a slightly lower level of luxury if you are looking for that. So I think if you're completely locked into the Hyatt chain, and this is roughly the budget you want to spend, the Andaz is a good choice. I think just bear in mind that it's not the newest building. I think the staff is super nice, they're trying, you have a lot of still, you know, like luxurious and comfortable features, but also obviously there's some things like, you know, the rooms itself where you can really see that it's an older building. And I don't know if it's just a COVID thing that they're not stocking the minibar, for example, or that they're not giving out, you know, drink vouchers, but just something to note. So I think if you're not locked into the Hyatt chain, Dubai has a lot of, like a ton of hotels, roughly at the same price point. So you really have the you know, all the variety, and I think you can probably get some better value for your money. So I would only recommend the Andaz if you are locked into the Hyatt chain, if you're looking for a Hyatt hotel and this is roughly what your price point is at. Otherwise, you might find some, you know, more modern hotels where you get more for your buck. So if you've previously stayed in the Andaz in Dubai or some other Hyatt hotels, it would be really interesting to hear, you know, how it compares to the Andaz, how your experiences were. So write it in the comments if you like, would be really cool to have a bit of a discussion there. So yeah, that's it from my side, and I'll see you in the next review. Cheers.